What's up everybody? I'm Matt Gary, and on this episode of Coding with the Force, I'm going to show you how to generate a Word document from a Lightning Web Component. Alright guys, so just like with every other video I do, I first want to explain to you why you would ever care to create a Lightning Web Component that generates Word documents. And then I'm going to show you a little demo of the very simple thing that we're going to build today to just get you used to how you could do this in Lightning Web Components if you wanted to. So why would you want to do this? I mean, it's a little more obvious in a lot of my videos where I explain things. But, you know, somebody's come to you and they want you to generate a document for one reason or another, and they want it to be in Word format. That document could be a variety of things. In our case today, we're going to create a list of all the contacts related to an account. But it's not impossible for you to, you know, maybe want to generate a list, a Word document with a list of opportunity line items or quotes or a bunch of leads, a list of leads for people to take a look at. I don't really know. There's a bunch of different use cases. Obviously, there are products out there that you could use instead of this one, but it really depends on your need. So if you need to generate tons of documents with a variety of different templates, so you know, just tons of different template options for whatever Word document it is you're generating, you know, it might be better for you to go like an in-text docgen route or something else, something along those lines, right? I believe Adobe has a product, something like that. Alternatively, you could extrapolate what I'm about to show you today to get your own templating thing set up. I've done something like that in the past, but it's not easy. I'm not going to show you all that today, but you can definitely do it. Okay, and why would you do this in Lightning Web Components instead of Visualforce? You're going to have to use a JavaScript library with this, so a lot of times, because of Lightning Locker Service, it is easier to use Visualforce pages instead of Lightning Web Components or Aura Components. That being said, thankfully, we have a extremely good JavaScript library that does work with Locker Service for document generation, Word doc generation specifically. However, if we didn't, the one drawback to Visualforce Components is the view state, and you can easily generate Word documents depending on what you're doing that will exceed the view state of a Visualforce page. So you can get yourself into a little bit of a dangerous situation depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it. Alternatively, right, Lightning Web Components, you don't have that problem. You can generate gigantic documents and, you know, never going to run into a view state error anyway. You could crash the browser, but that's a different thing entirely. So we're not going to go into that. As far as what we're going to be building today, I'm going to basically have us build this build document button that allows us to literally take contact data and build a Word document. And once we click that and the Word document is built, we have the option to download that document. And again, this is a very simple example, and I'm not making anything beautiful, but this generates a Word document with first name, last name, and then the list of contacts that are associated with the account we're looking at right now, which you can see down here is the case. We've got good old Jeremy Smathers and Darius LaFleur. Sure. And just ignore this thing. I'm working on this pretty fancy related list component that'll allow you to mass edit things and mass delete and all that kind of stuff. Search among them, all that. You know, hopefully I'll do a video on that within the next month. It's getting pretty close to done. Anyway, cool. Now that we've gone over some things, let's get into how we actually code this. So the first thing that you are going to care about is this JavaScript framework called docxjs. This is what we're going to use. It is built in a way that is Locker service compliant, and I mean it's really easy to deal with. There's some uniqueness for Lightning Web Components, and the documents are assuming that you are going to use, you know, a bunch of their individual modules, but we are going to import this as one big giant JavaScript file because Salesforce won't like it otherwise, and you'll have to spend a lot of time dealing with modifying all those modules to do with it what you want. Thankfully, docxjs provides you a you know, kind of condensed version of its ES6 modules that it has for its code base, and we're going to use it. So I'll provide a link to this, as well as, you know, I'll have my GitHub. I'll have a GitHub repository for all this code too, where you can grab the docxjs JavaScript file to upload to static resources and whatnot. All right, so the first thing you'll want to do is grab this file wherever it exists, whether you want to grab it from my GitHub or you want to grab it from this link specifically, or from docxjs's site. All up to you. You'll want to grab that, and you'll want to go over to static resources and create a new static resource. And you can call this static resource whatever it is you want to call it, but you know, you could name it docxjs and give it a useful description. This is a JS library used for generating, you know, Word docs. And then you'll choose your file. So that is my docxjs file. I just right-clicked on this page here and saved it as docxjs. Cool. So once you've done that, you'll make this static resource public and save it. I obviously have already done this, which is why I have this docx file, or static resource rather, but that's how you would get that done otherwise. So you do need to grab their code here, save it, and upload it to static resources. Cool. All right, so what do we do after that? The first thing, of course, is we're going to need to create a new Lightning Web Component. So let's move on over to Visual Studio Code and get this done. So this is my completed version that we were just demoing. You can see it's actually not very much code at all, which is great, only about 100 lines. Obviously, it can get quite a bit more complex depending on what you're doing, but you can always, you know, it all depends on the use case, right? So let's create a new one though, because yeah, let's do this from scratch so you know how to do it and we walk through it all together. So we'll create a new Lightning Web Component. By the way, before we get started, if you don't know what this is Visual Studio Code. It is a great IDE that you can use for free. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. I have a video tutorial showing you how to set all this up for Salesforce. Please go ahead and check it out. I also got several other Lightning Web Component tutorials that might help you with this one, potentially. I don't know. But if you're interested, they exist too. So let's create a new Lightning Web Component. So we'll do that, and we'll name this, we'll say contact list generator. And there we go. So what do we do first here? we obviously have to load in that script somehow, that script that we got from docxjs's site. So to be able to do that, we are going to import load script from Lightning platform. I can't remember. I think it's a lowercase platform resource loader. Cool. So what this allows you to do is load in your scripts from your static resource files. And so we're obviously definitely going to need that here pretty quick. The second thing that we are going to need to do is import our actual docx file from the resources folder. I'll explain how these two work together in just a moment. But so we'll, oh wait, actually I don't need brackets here. We'll just say docx import from at Salesforce. Salesforce resource URL, not Taco Bell audio. docx. All right. And we'll need to import one other thing, but we haven't built it yet, so that's cool. The other thing we'll need is to use the API decorator here in a bit, so we'll want to import the API from the LWC modules. Okay, so what am I doing with these import statements? Basically, I'm allowing us to use the Salesforce's pre-built load script module. So this allows us to load an additional script into our page from static resources or theoretically other places. So that's what this does. It allows us to load a script in. And this is me actually importing the script in from our static resources right here. So if you can remember, I named my static resource for the docxjs file docx, and that's what you're looking at here. I'm literally creating a reference to that file with this import statement. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do, you could do this a couple different ways. You could do this with a rendered callback or a connected callback. I'm going to go with a connected callback. I don't know if rendered callback is better. It might be a little bit faster. Somebody feel free to tell me how much cooler it is. I know you can do it this way, but anyway. So basically what we're going to do, if you don't know what connected callback is, basically when you're, well, okay, there, it just popped it up there for me. So it's called when the element is inserted into a document, or basically when the element shows up in the page, right? So say you're loading a page that has this Lightning Web Component in it. This connected callback method is going to be called as soon as that Lightning Web Component gets loaded into the page. So what I'm going to do as soon as the Lightning Web Component gets loaded into the page is load in my script. So you can do this by just calling load script, but I almost always just go on ahead and create my own promise. Basically what this means is I'm gonna wait until this script, and if I wanted to load multiple scripts in, I'm gonna wait for all of those scripts to load. So we'll just say load script this docx import boom 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 dot then, well, not there, and all right, and once this happens, we're we're going to have another method called render buttons. All right, so let me write this and then explain it. All right, so the connected callback gets called as soon as your element gets loaded into the page. In this case, as soon as our Lightning Web component gets loaded into the page. Then what happens is we create a promise, which basically states this is going to wait until all the scripts that you want to load are loaded. So if you wanted to load additional scripts here, you could just do something like load another script and do this, and you know, maybe it's like the file saver JS library that's pretty popular. So maybe you could maybe you wanted to load in multiple scripts. You can do that with promise all, which makes it really nice. You could also load in styles if you wanted to within that same promise statement. And then what this is saying is basically it's saying I promise to load all of these things that you want to load, and then once I'm done loading them, I'm going to call this method here and execute what's inside it. So this is just shorthand for basically a method that this promise statement calls when it's done. And so within this method, I'm calling the render buttons method within my class, or within my Lightning Web component, rather. Okay, so pretty easy. Also, we won't get into that. Maybe we'll get there eventually, but not right now. All right, so hopefully that clears up what this weird looking thing is doing. The next thing that we're going to do is go over to our HTML and actually create the buttons that pop up. This won't take very long, and I'm going to get rid of all this stuff so it's not in the way. Okay, double click this so it stays up. All right, so I'm just going to create the HTML for this really quick. There is really no reason for me to spend a lot of time on this, but first thing we're going to do is create a div to contain our two buttons, and we're going to give that div a class, and I forget the name of this, slids class. I call them slids. Salesforce Lightning Design System class. And then what we're going to do is create a button that is that generate document button. So we'll just create a Lightning button and give it a class equal to, let's see, we need the slids float left class. I'm just not going to waste your time here. Let me just grab this and copy it over, because HTML, while cool, is really not complicated. So let's go over it. Basically, I've just made a Lightning button here, and I have given it the class of hidden, which we'll create here in a second, a slids float left, and padding, a right padding. So these are just different classes that Salesforce provides to you in their Salesforce Lightning Design System library. Very convenient. So, and then we're saying on the click of this button, let's start the document generation. That's pretty much it. We're going to build the download button eventually, but we're not quite ready yet. So let's first make the CSS for this Lightning Web component here. Sorry, my dog just freaked out. It was interesting. Okay, so CSS. Let's go on ahead and create a new file and name it the same, contact _list _generator. .css. And I'm just going to do these two things, and I'll tell you why I'm not using the slids ones here in a minute. But basically, this is going to hide our element, and this is going to keep it, or this is going to unhide it later. Cool? Cool. There's also a lighting design system attribute for that too, but I'm gonna use it later for something else. And I'm just saving this now, which you can kind of see down here, and it's taking forever. And once it's done, we'll move on. So actually, I don't even need to wait. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to render our button only once all of my scripts have been loaded in. In this case, it's just that docxjs library. So we'll say this dot template dot query selector, and we want all of our hidden elements, our classes, or our elements that have the class of hidden on them. That's what we're saying there. And we want to get their class list and add the not hidden class to it. Cool. Then we also want to basically do the same thing, but remove the hidden class. Just like that. Okay. But with the word remove. Cool. All right, so basically what we're doing here is we're saying once we load all of our scripts, render the generate document button so that we can see it. Right. That's pretty much it. Not much else to it. So after that button pops up for our users to actually take a look at, the next thing we need to do is figure out how to actually generate this document, which we haven't even got to yet. So let's go on ahead and create this start document generation method that we call back in the HTML. So we've got this on click, and basically what this is doing is saying on click call the JavaScript method start document generation. Important stuff. So we, of course, need to make a method in our JavaScript controller that starts the document generation. And now we need to make an Apex class to pull in the contact data for our accounts, or for the account that we're on currently. So let's do two things before we make that Apex class. Earlier, I imported this API. Basically, the API decorator is what this ends up being used for. But we imported that module. So we're going to say at API record ID. And what this statement here, what the statement does is it's basically saying, okay, whatever page this Lightning Web Component is on, I'm going to grab the record ID and store it right here. So you don't have to do anything to grab the record ID of this record, or of the page that we're going to place this Lightning Web Component on shortly. You just need to state add API record ID, and that'll just inherently give you the record ID of whatever account record we are currently looking at when we're viewing this Lightning Web Component. Pretty cool. So the second thing that we need to do is go over to our metadata file, change this is exposed to true, and then we are going to drop in some things, and I'm gonna just briefly explain them. Okay, so I've got this master label, which I'm gonna change to, we'll say contact list document generator. So what this master label is whenever you go to your Lightning app builder and you put this on a Lightning record page, when you search for it, you're going to search for a contact list document generator instead of this the actual like API name of the Lightning Web Component. So this gives you a nice looking label for whoever it is going to actually place these on Lightning App Builder pages. This description is just nice to have. You definitely don't need to have it, but I always suggest it because it gives you an idea of what this Lightning Web Component was built for and is very useful in the long run. And then this targets here is basically saying, okay, I'm going to allow my Lightning Web Component to be placed on a record page for an object. So in our case, we're going to place this on the account objects record page, which we'll see here in a bit, which you saw in the demo. So it's important that we actually have a target here that allows us to place it there. If we didn't have this here and you went and put this, or you went and tried to drop this on a Lightning App Builder page or a FlexiPage, it would just say, no way, my guy. I'm not even going to show up in the list because you didn't tell me I could do that. So pretty important to get done. And now that we've gone over those two things, let's make our very, very small Apex controller that we're going to use to grab our list of contacts, our list of related contacts, that is. So we are, again, going to hit Control-Shift-P, and this time we're going to create an Apex class, and we'll say, well, I don't know, we'll call this contact. I don't know. I'm out of names. Contact grabber. It's a horrible name. But anyway, and we're going to make an or enabled method, and we're going to say it's not going to return a string. We're going to return a list of contacts and get all related contacts. And I'm going to keep this real simple. And we're just going to say return. Oh, no, I was spelling that right. Select ID, first name, last name from contact, where account ID equals account ID. Okay. So basically we've made a method that'll return us a list of contacts that we pass an account ID. And basically what it's going to do is literally just query for contacts using the account ID, and if there's anything there, it's going to return us a list of contacts, or it'll return us null if there's nothing there to grab. That's it. That is the extent of our Apex that we're going to write in this tutorial, because like I said, I'm keeping it simple because the point of this is to focus on why my mouse is about to die, or my keyboard. Just kidding. Let me plug it in. But the point of this is to figure out how to actually generate those documents. There we go. And not so much about anything else. Okay, cool. My keyboard's not going to die. We've created our class to grab our contacts. Let's come back over here to the, what am I looking for? Let's come over here and call out to that Apex class. So, gonna be pretty simple. But first we need to import a reference to that Apex class. So we'll say import contact grab from at Salesforce Apex contact grabber dot get all related contacts, just like that. So basically what this is doing is it's saying, okay, now we've got a reference to this method, get all related contacts, that we can use to call out to our class and grab those contacts. Cool. Very useful. So basically what we're going to do is use that reference there. So we're going to say contact grab, and I realize these are not the best names, but I'm doing this in, maybe an hour or less. Pick better names when you do it for real. So we're going to call, actually let me write a little more of this and then I'll explain it. So we're going to say then contacts. Cool. All right. Did I do anything wrong? I don't think so. Okay. So, what's happening with this relatively simple thing here? Well, we're saying, okay, the contact grab import that we made up here for our contact grabber get all related contacts class, or method rather. Let's call that method and pass it. If you don't remember, we have a parameter called account ID. So let's pass that parameter the record ID of whatever record we're looking at, and then have it return us a list of contacts. That's it. Nothing else really going on there. Pretty simple. And then what we're going to do is create another method called, we'll call it build document. So that starts the document generation. This is going to actually build out the document, and we want to pass this our contacts. So we'll say contacts passed, and we'll say nope. This dot build document contacts. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we're passing this method down here called build document the contacts that were returned from our Apex class. Pretty simple, nothing too crazy yet. All right, so in our build document class, what we want to do is declare a new variable, and we'll call it document. Well, actually, yeah, we'll just call it document, and we'll make it equal to a new docx, not that, docx document. Okay, I gotta tell you guys, Visual Studio's autocomplete is really terrible. No matter what I do, no matter what plugin I use, it's always bad. Okay, and what this is going to do is it's literally going to generate it's going to start a new Word document for you. So that's what this statement is saying. It's saying, okay, let's start the process of building a new document, or initialize a new Word document basically, and assign it to this document variable. Then we're going to want to do a couple things. We want to make a list of table cells. This could also potentially be paragraphs or whatever else, and I'll show you what I mean here in a second. I personally like to build tables in these Word documents because it kind of makes them nice and aligned. Anyway, but you might want to build paragraphs, and I'll show you how to deal with that too. And we're gonna want to create a few more methods here. So we're going to create a generate header row method, and we'll get back to it in a second. We're gonna create a generate row method, and this will pass a contact. Whoa, come on, Matt. And we're gonna do a generate table method, and we're gonna do a download document method, Am I forgetting anything other than variables I need to pass it? Document passed. Table cells passed. And we need to pass this the document. And I think that's it. Oh, I guess we can, I'll show you how to generate a text run too. Generate text run. And we'll just pass it the string. Okay. So I'm building a lot of these methods, and it's just so this is going to be a little bit easier for us to get through here in just a second. But anyway, basically they're going to be these kind of auxiliary methods that allow us to generate the different things we need to generate for our Word document to be output the way we want to output it. I like to break things down into really small methods, and really you should too if you're coding a lot and you don't want it to be a huge pain. Because if you create gigantic, huge methods, they're hard to test, they're hard to know what they're doing, it's hard to maintain them, so try and keep your methods as small as you can. Give them single responsibilities. We're not going to go over all that. Follow the solid principles. That's cool. It's not going to be perfect in this video. I would probably actually make these into ES6 modules, or basically JavaScript modules, which I have a video on how to do in Lightning Web Components if you want to check that out. Now that I've gone off topic there enough, let's go over how to do these things. How do we actually build the document now that we've kind of got everything set up? All right, so we've got this build document method. We've initialized our new document. We've passed it our contacts that we got from our Apex controller. And we're going to do the following. So we've got this array of table cells, right? That's currently empty, but we want to fill those out. So we'll say we want to make a header row for our table cells to kind of tell you, you know, this is what row A is and what row B is. So we'll say table cells dot push generate header row. Cool. And so we're going to go down to the generate header row method, and I'm going to show you how to create a table cell using this docx library. So we're going to declare a variable called table header row, and we're going to make it equal to new docx table row. So this is literally the row, like a row in a table. That's what we're creating right now. And then we're going to create the cells for that row. Okay, so we're creating a new table row, and we are going to declare the children of that row. And the children will be new instances of what are called docx.tablecell table cells. All right. Now, if you're looking at the docx documentation, you'll notice that they don't have this docx dot in front of them. And that's because for the majority of people that use this, they don't import one giant docx file. They're importing different JavaScript modules, and the JavaScript modules are just named table cell, kind of like up here, right? And they're so instead of them being named docx something, it would just be named table cell up here. So we just have imported the table cell, the code necessary to generate a table cell. However, because of the way that Salesforce works and the way that you have to import these things, import this to make all this work, there is just, you have to use this reference docx.tablecell. So anywhere in the documentation where it's just stating table cell or it's just stating paragraph or whatever else, when you're doing this in a Lightning Web Component, at least the way that I've found works, you have to put docx dot in front of it to call out to the right places. All right, it's an important note. So let's make this table cell. Inside this table cell, which I've already given an array there, we are going to create another, some more children here, and that child is going to be what's called a new docx paragraph, yep. And we're just going to give it first name. And we also need another row or another table cell, so we'll say this is basically saying let's create an array of children. So here's child 1. We're going to separate it by a comma, create another child called another docx table cell. And we're going to say children new docx paragraph and do the last name. Cool. And then we need to return our table row header. So what are we doing here? We are literally just creating a table row, giving that table row children, so things that are associated with that table row. And basically, so inside of the table row, there are 2 table cells, one for the first name of a contact and one for the last name of a contact. Pretty simple, not too crazy. The next thing that we'll need to do is come on back up here to the build document method, and we are going to do a, what does come next? Oh, we're going to loop through our contacts. So we'll say contacts passed for each. Yep, there we go. Okay, you don't need that. For each. And we'll say for each contact that's passed in, we will do the following. We will push in a new table cell, or push in, we'll push in a new, my goodness, why is the autocomplete so bad in this? I don't know if I've done something wrong, but it's just wild sometimes. Okay, so we're going to call this dot generate row, I think is what we called it, generate row, and pass it the contact. Cool. All right, so basically what we're going to do, now that we've created a header row, so we created the header row, which if you remember in our Word document that I generated, and I'm going to show you guys how to generate this without borders too here in a moment. But anyway, this is just a quick thing. So we've created our header row, which is just first name, last name. Now we're going to actually push in our data for each of the contacts, right? So we're going to do table cells.push. So we're pushing more data into this array of table cells. And we're, for every single contact, so we've got this list of contacts that we passed in. We're looping for them with a for each statement. We are going to generate a table row for that contact. So down here in generate row, it's going to look fairly similar to up here. In fact, I am just going to at least copy this portion of it, bring it down here, and name this, remove the header portion, table row, and give it that stuff. And just go on ahead and write the return statement so I don't forget to do it. Okay, so just like last time, we're going to create children, and and we're going to create new, we're basically just going to create new table cells just like we did before. But in this one, I'm going to show you how to use what's called a text run so that you can kind of style your text the way you might want to style it, right? So we'll say children docx dot, oh, my dog is just really going at it. New table cell, and we'll give this table cell some children, because who doesn't just want a whole slew of kids? Docx dot paragraph, and we are going to create some children for that paragraph. And for that paragraph's children, we're going to say, okay, what did I mess up here? Maybe nothing yet. New docx. No, I think we're good. Okay, so new children, and then we're going to say this dot generate text run, and we are going to pass it the following information. We're going to pass it the contact passed first name dot to string. I must have missed some little thing. No. Generate text run. Oh, what random thing did I miss here? I know it's something stupid. No, I don't think so. I really don't think so. I don't know. Sometimes it gives me errors in, oh, you know what? I did. There we go. Okay, cool. So, you know, I can't do syntax no matter how long I do this stuff. Always something stupid I miss. Okay, cool. So let's copy and paste this so that I don't, oh, actually, I need to do this so that I don't screw this up again and have you staring here with me. And we are just going to pass the contact's last name, and yeah, that's it. So as far as what this generate text run thing does, I guess before I get into that, the contact that we passed, we are just passing like one record of the list of contacts that we have. And when you pass in that record, you can grab specific fields on that record by doing what you're seeing me do here. So I'm saying, for this contact, let's grab the first name value that is associated with it and turn it into a string and pass that into this generate text run method. So it's nothing super fancy, but if you're not super familiar with how lists kind of get translated from Apex into JavaScript, it's a little confusing the first time you're messing with things. But that's how you reference a field in a record that within JavaScript. So yeah, hopefully that's not too confusing. I should have maybe taken a little more time to figure out how to explain that specifically, but hopefully no one's too lost there, and it's relatively self-explanatory. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is create a text run. So we are going to create this text run, and real quick, I'm just going to go on ahead and do return text run so I don't forget it, because I'm prone to doing that. And we're going to create a new docx.text run. And basically what these text runs allow you to do is, you know, really customize the text that you're putting different places, which is cool. So I'm going to basically give it all the different parameters that I want. So I'm going to say text, the text for my text run will be the cell string that I passed in. So my parameter up here. And then I want bold to be true. I want the size to be 24. And I want the font to be Calibri. Because why not? And I believe that's it. So we're good. It is important to note that the size for some reason is in half points, not full points. So if you want something to be size 12, you give it 24. And if you wanted it to be 24, you'd give it 48. Let's just see how that works out. Okay, so now we're generating text runs, which allow us to really you know, make our text a lot nicer looking, I suppose. And then we're going to come back up here to our build document method, because the next thing that we're going to need to do is actually generate the table in our Word document to show all of the table cells, or table rows and table cells that we've created. So we'll do this dot generate table, and in the generate table we're going to pass the document that we've created and been modifying this whole time, and we're going to pass in table cells, which is the array of table cells that we've been, you know, putting together through this whole thing. Cool. And then I'm just going to go on ahead and do this as well. We'll do this dot download document and pass it in our document. So that way we can just, we're done with this method now, build document finally. And let's go on down here. And this really shouldn't be called download document. I should name this something else. And we need to create a variable up here real quick. So we'll call this the download URL. So this is going to be the URL that we push into a link here in a second so that we can actually download our document. Okay, and I'm going to change this to generate download link, because that makes a lot more sense than download document. Okay, cool. So as far as how do we actually generate our table now, this is pretty super simple. So we're going to say let document table equal new docx dot table, and we're going to just do a couple things here. Well, actually, really, I think one. We're just going to say that our rows are equal to table cells passed, and I'm pretty sure that's it. And then we're going to say, oh yeah, document passed add section, and just say children doc table. Cool. That should be it, I think. So as far as what's happening here, basically we're just generating a table, and we are giving it the table cells, or table rows, really. That's, again, another naming thing I got wrong. There should really be probably table rows passed. So we're basically just giving it the rows that we generated, which is cool. And then we are, for our document that we made, we're adding a section to that document. So you can create different sections. So you could put a bunch of different tables in the page in their own way, or you could create a bunch of different paragraphs and put them in their own sections or whatever else. But that's how you do that with docx, is you take your document and you add a section to it. In this case, we're adding a section and dropping in our table we just created. That's simple. And the last thing that we're going to do is do this download link. And we're going to do docx.packer, So basically this packs up the document for you in a nice way to be able to give it to the user. Base64 to string. And we're going to give it the document passed. And text blob. Oh man, I can just maybe type today. We'll see. No promises. Okay, so we're going to do this dot download. Download URL is equal to a very long string I definitely can't remember, so I've got it written down over here. So basically this just creates a Word document with our text blob here, and that's mostly it. I have tried to do this using other methods, using file saver, that JavaScript library, among other things. For some reason, this is the only way, as of today anyway, that I've figured out how to get this to actually download. Is by generating this download URL and then creating a link on the page for you to grab, which I'm going to show you here in just a second. So we've actually got to go back over to our HTML, and we need to create this link, which I am just going to copy and paste over here because, again, HTML is cool, but it's not that crazy hard, and I don't want to waste too much time on it. So basically what we're saying is, let's create a link that looks like a button, and give it this download link. So this should actually be, in our case, download URL. And we're going to use the name contactlist.docx. So you can change this to, whatever name you want for your downloaded file to be. And you could even set that in the JavaScript controller if you wanted to and reference it here. And then I'm initially hiding it with the slids hide method or class, turning it into a button with the slids button classes. And yeah, I definitely don't need this margin here. That's a remnant of the past. We can get rid of it. And then I'm giving it a, the text download document to be within it. Cool. And that should be it. So we're going to save that. And I do need to, now that that HTML is there, I need to add one more line down here to our generate download link method. So we'll say this dot template dot query selector, and we need to grab slids hide, and we need quotes around this. And we'll say class list dot remove slids hide. And that way this doesn't, we don't need a period here. And that way this doesn't show up, before the document is generated and create a bunch of null documents for users, or just it doesn't do anything and users get confused, right? Cool. So pending I did everything right, which is a big pending, we're going to go drop this in a Lightning app builder page on our account object. So you can get there one of two ways. You can actually go to the account and just grab the little setup gear there and go to edit page, or you can go to setup and go to Lightning app builder down here. And opportunity bangers, always going to be there. We're going to edit this page, and I don't remember what we ended up naming it. Contact list document generator. So it'll show up here in a sec. Gonna take the old one off for now and put in contact list document generator. Cool. It's looking the same so far. So here's hoping I didn't break anything. And we can come back over here, reload this page, click build document, and looks like I at least broke something. So we'll see what that is. Table row header is not defined on this line. Return table row header. Table header row. Important stuff. One thing I should state, if you don't know this, table header row. Let's make sure I didn't do anything else stupid like that somewhere. Doesn't look like it yet, anyway. One thing I should state, if you didn't know, when you're developing these Lightning web components, it's super useful to have debug mode enabled. If you don't know how to do that, you can come over here and setup and go to debug mode and find yourself in the list of users. Check the box next to your name and then hit enable. And the reason that it's so useful is because whenever I was debugging, you can see that it actually returned a real line number here. If you don't have that debugger on, it minimizes all of your Lightning, your LWC code, and so you can't actually see which row it failed on. It's basically just one big line that's ugly and impossible to read if you've never seen minimized JavaScript. So definitely turn that on. It's extremely useful. It makes your life a lot easier. Cool. So let's make sure that deployed successfully. It did. And here's hoping I didn't name anything else wrong, because you never know. What did I do this time? Document passed is not defined. Right, because I copied and pasted that code from somewhere else, I think. We'll just keep this easy. You know, trying to save time, end up wasting time. A classic. What is this? Also, I'm not sure why it does this, but it randomly imports stuff for me in Visual Studio Code too. I don't even know where that came from. Why did it have that import for something completely random? We don't need to go over that. Okay. I'm very tempted to go back to IntelliJ and just code in it for these videos. I only use this just for these videos because I know almost everyone uses Visual Studio Code for Salesforce development. But let me tell you, $90 a year is well worth it for IntelliJ. Okay, cool. So nothing's broken this time, thankfully. And we got the download document link, and we can download it, and hopefully, cool, it shows up. We got our list of people, which is great. So real quick, before we end this video, I am going to show you, just in case you're super interested in actually generating tables, how to get rid of the borders for a table cell, because it's kind of annoying. And, you know, it is still a great library, don't get me wrong at all, but it is a little frustrating from time to time. So what I like to do to get rid of borders on table cells is I set this private variable, underscores denote that a variable is private, and in JavaScript, if you were unaware, I think they're about to change it to a pound sign or a hashtag, or maybe they already have, but we'll see. So you gotta basically declare this big array here of border styles for the top, bottom, left, right of every table cell. And then you have to go down to where you're actually creating your table cells down here. And you declare, I believe, hopefully, borders, this dot, I don't want to autocomplete anything useful. This dot, no border. Cool. Pretty sure this is right, so just bear with me. Hopefully I am right. And this takes us about 2 seconds to get through. Okay, so within your table cells, you just have to declare that border setting with that array of that basically denotes that you're not going to have any border anywhere. And after this saves, we'll go back, generate the document again. We'll reload the page first, generate the document again, and check it out. Another thing, while this saves, if you, you know what, we'll do it after this. So let's build our document, download the document, and this time you can see it came in with no borders. So, you'd want to do something to kind of space these table cells out a bit, which there are definitely options to do that, and you can look at all that documentation on docxjs's site. It's pretty great, honestly. It's one of the better documented JavaScript libraries in existence, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, that's how you do it. There's a lot more, like an enormous amount of stuff that you can do with this library to generate virtually anything you can think of with these Word documents. It's great. I've used it for absolutely enormous documents with images in them and stuff like that. So that's pretty much it. One more thing I'll let you know about Lightning Web Component development, if you weren't aware, is that I'm sure it's been a huge pain for some people where they reload their page and your Lightning Web Component doesn't get updated. You can fix that problem, or at least substantially reduce that problem, by going to session settings and disabling secure and persistent browser caching to improve performance. Don't do that in production or a QA or a UAT environment, but in your development environment, definitely shut this off so that you can develop pretty easily and quite a bit quicker. Your reloads typically work in that scenario. So, all right, guys, we did it. We made a document. This code will all be on my GitHub. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe. Consider donating if you are so kind. And that's it. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.